The massive space station turned slowly in the darkness of space. Lights blinked across its surface like stars. Inside the main chamber, beings from 12 different worlds sat around a curved table. Some had scales, others had tentacles, and a few looked like walking crystals. They all had one thing in common. They were worried about the humans. Ji-ho Kim sat at the human table. He wore a simple blue uniform with silver buttons. His dark hair was cut short and his eyes watched everything. Next to him sat Minju Park, a woman with kind eyes who knew more about alien life than most people knew about their own families. On his other side was Dae-won Lee, a man whose hands looked like they had built starships and fought battles among the stars. The chamber fell quiet when an old creature stood up. Thexmore was older than some stars. His skin looked like gray leather and his eyes glowed with a soft blue light. When he spoke, his voice filled the room like distant thunder. "Friends of the Council," Thexmore began, "we must speak of the humans." Several aliens shifted in their seats. Some made clicking sounds. Others whispered in languages that sounded like wind through metal. "The humans have been traveling between stars for only 3 years," Thexmore continued. "But they have already built colonies on 16 worlds. They adapt to any environment. They learn our languages in weeks. They solve problems that have puzzled us for centuries." A tall, thin alien with silver skin raised one of its 4 arms. "Elder Thexmore, surely you do not fear such a young species." Thexmore's eyes grew brighter. "I fear what we do not understand, and there is much about the humans we do not understand." Ji-ho Kim listened but said nothing. His face showed no emotion. "Their homeworld," Thexmore said, "remains a mystery. They call it Earth. We have tried to send diplomatic missions there. Each time the humans politely refuse. They say their world is not ready for visitors." A creature that looked like a walking tree made a sound like rustling leaves. "Perhaps they are ashamed of their primitive world." "Perhaps," said Thexmore. "But our long-range sensors tell a different story. Earth has orbital stations the size of cities. We detect energy signatures that should not exist on a world so young in star travel. Their military fleets move in patterns that suggest knowledge far beyond their apparent technology." Kilthera stood up. She was made of living crystal that changed colors as she moved. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music. "Honored Elder, you worry too much. I have studied human psychology. They are emotional creatures who make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. Their technology is stolen or copied from others. Their homeworld likely contains nothing more than farms and basic factories." Several aliens nodded in agreement. The human delegation remained silent. Thexmore raised his hand for quiet. 6 months ago, our deep space monitors detected something unusual. A human fleet was engaged in battle with space pirates near the Vega system. The pirates had superior numbers and firepower, but the humans won in less than an hour. "Luck," said Kylothera. "The human ships moved in perfect coordination," Thexmore continued. "Their weapons cut through pirate shields like they were made of paper. And when it was over, the humans disappeared. Our monitors lost track of them completely." Minju Park finally spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. "Honored Council members, humans appreciate your concern for our development. We are still learning about the galaxy and our place in it." "Where did your fleet go after the battle?" asked an alien with too many eyes. "Home," Minju said simply. "To Earth?" "Press the alien. To safety," she replied. Thexmore studied the human delegation. "There are stories," he said slowly. "Old stories from the edge of known space. Traders speak of human ships appearing from nowhere to help those in danger. Always the same pattern, sudden appearance, swift action, then vanishing without explanation. Humans help others," said Dae-won Lee. "This is our nature." "But where do you come from?" asked another alien. "Our sensors cannot track your ships. They simply appear and disappear." "We have good pilots," Dae-won said. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens spoke rapidly in their own languages. Some sounded angry, others frightened. Thexmore raised both hands. "Silence!" The room fell quiet. "The pattern is clear. Humans are more advanced than they appear. Their homeworld is heavily protected for reasons we do not understand, and they show capabilities that suggest military doctrine far beyond a species that has been traveling space for only 3 years." Kylothera's crystal body flashed red. "You speak of children as if they were ancient warriors." "I speak of what I have observed," Thexmore replied. "And what I have observed suggests that approaching the human homeworld would be unwise." Ji-ho Kim stood up slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. "Honored Council," he said, "humans desire peace with all thinking beings. We seek trade, friendship, and shared knowledge. But like all species, we protect our home." "From what?" demanded Kythera. Jiho smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. "From those who would do us harm." "No one threatens you," Kythera said. "Not yet," Jiho replied. The silence that followed was heavy. Several aliens shifted uncomfortably. Thexmore watched the human delegation with growing unease. "I propose, Anim," said Thexmore, "that we establish formal protocols regarding human space. Their colonies and trade routes should be respected, and their homeworld should be left alone." "This is ridiculous," Kythera protested. "Why should we fear a species that learned to travel between stars 3 years ago?" Thexmore's eyes glowed brighter. "Because, my crystalline friend, some species learn quickly, and some species have been preparing longer than we know." The vote was close, but Thexmore's proposal passed. The Council would send a formal message to all member civilizations and their allies. The message was simple. By order of the Galactic Council, all vessels are advised to maintain peaceful relations with human colonies and trade missions. Direct approach to the Sol system and the planet Earth is not recommended. Avoid the land of the Earth. As the Council session ended, aliens filed out in small groups, talking quietly among themselves. Some seemed worried. Others appeared angry. The human delegation remained seated until the chamber was nearly empty. Then Jiho Kim turned to his companions. "They suspect," he said quietly. Minju Park nodded. "Some of them." "The old one sees clearly." "And the crystal being?" asked Daewon Lee. "She sees only what she wants to see," Jiho replied. "That makes her dangerous." Minju gathered her papers. "How long do you think we have?" Jiho looked out through the chamber's great window at the stars beyond. "Not long. Pride and curiosity are powerful forces. Some of them will ignore the warning." Daewon Lee stood and straightened his uniform. "Then we had better return home and prepare. Are we ready?" asked Minju. Jiho's smile was grim but confident. "We have been ready for longer than they know. The question is whether they are ready for us." The 3 humans left the chamber together. Behind them, a few aliens watched their departure with growing suspicion. The warning had been given. Whether anyone would listen remained to be seen. In the depths of space, automated message drones began transmitting the Council's advisory to every corner of known space. The message was clear: avoid the land of the Earth. But some beings, drunk on their own power and convinced of their superiority, would soon discover why the warning had been necessary. The first test of human resolve was coming, and humanity had been preparing for this test longer than anyone imagined. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council's warning. In the dark space between stars, 3 powerful fleets gathered like storm clouds before a hurricane. The ships came from 3 different empires, but they shared one goal: to put the humans in their place. War Commander Vex Karan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bloodfang. His red skin glowed with anger, and his tusks gleamed under the harsh lights. The Crimson Hegemony had ruled 100 worlds for 1,000 years. They would not be dictated to by primitive humans. "Status report," Vex Karan growled. 400 ships from the Hegemony are in position, reported his aide. The Stellar Dominion brings 300 vessels. The Azure Collective has committed 500 ships plus their psychic support fleet. Vex Karan nodded with satisfaction. 1,200 capital ships, 50,000 fighters, weapons that could crack planets. It was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. On the other side of the fleet, Admiral Zekthoran of the Stellar Dominion reviewed tactical displays on his crystal bridge. His people believed that technology was everything. They had ruled through superior weapons and advanced computers for centuries. The idea that primitive humans could challenge them was insulting. "Our sensors show human expansion continues," reported his tactical officer, a being whose head was half machine. 17 new colonies in the past 6 months. Their trade routes now cover 2 sectors. 17 colonies, Zekthoran repeated, built with stolen technology and protected by luck. This ends now. Far above both fleets, the Azure Collective's hive ships pulsed with psychic energy. Thousands of blue-skinned beings moved as one mind, their thoughts connected across the void. They had conquered worlds through mental domination, turning enemies into slaves with the power of thought alone. Humans would be no different. The collective mind spoke through its prime vessel. The small minds will bend. They always bend. While the three fleets prepared for war, a human listening post hidden in a dead asteroid watched everything. Hyun-Soo Choi sat in the small monitoring station, surrounded by screens and sensors. He had been tracking alien military movements for 2 years. What he saw now made his blood run cold. "Control, this is Monitor Station 7. He spoke into his communicator. "I have eyes on a massive alien fleet. 3 separate factions, over 1,200 capital ships. They're moving toward the Sol system." On Luna Base, Yunishin received the message in the Defense Command Center. The room was buried deep beneath the moon's surface, protected by layers of rock and metal. Dozens of people worked at glowing displays, watching the borders of human space. "Confirmed threat assessment," Yuna said calmly. "Alert all stations. Begin Protocol 7 immediately." Protocol 7 was something humanity had hoped never to use. It had been planned since the day humans first detected alien signals. Every colony, every ship, every hidden base had been built with this moment in mind. On Titan, Tai Min-kang supervised the secret shipyards hidden beneath the frozen surface. For 3 years, these facilities had been building ships using technology that aliens had never seen. The ships looked primitive from the outside, but they carried weapons and defenses that would surprise their enemies. "How many ships are ready?" Taemin asked his chief engineer. 200 capital ships fully operational," came the reply. "Another 50 can be combat-ready in 12 hours. Make it 6 hours, Taemin ordered. Back in space, War Commander Vex Karan called a meeting of the 3 allied commanders. They met virtually, their images appearing as holograms on each flagship's bridge. "The plan is simple," Vex Karan announced. "We bypass the human colonies and strike directly at their homeworld. One decisive blow will force them to surrender." Admiral Zek Thorin nodded. "Our intelligence shows minimal defenses around Earth. Perhaps 200 ships total. They rely on distance and hiding rather than strength." The Azure Collective's prime vessel spoke with the voice of thousands. "We will break their minds first. Fear will paralyze them before our weapons finish them." None of them noticed the small human ships that had been watching their meeting from the shadows. The alien fleet began moving toward Sol system. Their formation was perfect, their confidence absolute. They had overwhelming numbers and superior technology. What could possibly go wrong? Hyun-Soo Choi watched the alien fleet depart from his hidden station. He immediately sent another message. "Control, the fleet is moving. Estimated arrival at Sol system in 72 hours. Yunishin received the message and began the final phase of preparation. Across the solar system, structures that aliens had dismissed as mining platforms and research stations began to power up. Hidden weapons revealed themselves. Disguised ships shed their false hulls. The trap that humanity had been building for decades was almost ready. On Earth, in a bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean, human leaders met in emergency session. These were not politicians or diplomats. They were the people who had guided humanity's expansion into space, always knowing this day would come. "Recommendations?" asked the president. "Let them come," said the defense minister. "We're as ready as we'll ever be." "Casualties?" asked another leader. "Minimal on our side if the plan works," replied the military chief. "Total on theirs." The president looked around the room. "Any last thoughts about diplomatic solutions?" The foreign minister spoke up. "They ignored our peaceful overtures. They ignored the council's warning. They chose this path. Then we give them what they chose," the president said grimly. As the alien fleet approached Sol system, their confidence remained high. They saw exactly what they expected to see: a small human defensive fleet and a few orbital stations around Earth. It looked like easy prey. War Commander Vex Karan studied the tactical displays. 200 human ships against our 1,200. "This will be over in an hour," Admiral Zek Thorin agreed. "Their technology is primitive. Our shields will absorb their weapons while our fleet destroys them completely." The Azure Collective reached out with their minds, probing for human thoughts. What they found confused them. Instead of fear, they sensed anticipation. How could the humans be looking forward to a battle they could not win? The alien fleet prepared for what they believed would be an easy victory. They had superior numbers, better weapons, and centuries of military experience. They had conquered dozens of species. Humans would be no different. They were about to learn why the Galactic Council had warned everyone to avoid the land of the Earth. They were about to discover that humanity had been preparing for this exact moment. Since before they had ever left their homeworld, and they were about to understand that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who looks weakest. The stage was set. The players were in position, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when arrogance met preparation. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what they were really facing. The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of angry wasps. 1,200 ships spread across space in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with deadly purpose. Energy signatures pulsed as weapons charged and shields activated. War Commander Vexcaran stood on his bridge and smiled. The tactical display showed exactly what he had expected. A modest human fleet of about 200 ships hung in space near the inner planets. No massive defensive stations. No hidden fleets. Just a small group of primitive vessels waiting to be destroyed. "Look at them," Vexcaran laughed to his officers. "They know they cannot win, yet they still try to fight. How pathetic." Admiral Zek Thorin examined his own sensors from the Stellar Dominion flagship. Their ships appear to be basic designs. Simple hulls, minimal weapons, primitive engines. This will be easier than expected. The Azure Collective spread their mental awareness across the system, searching for human thoughts. They found fear, determination, and something else, something that felt like cold satisfaction. It puzzled them, but they dismissed it as human irrationality. Unknown to the alien fleet, Captain So-Young Jian watched them from her stealth ship Soul's Pride. The vessel was invisible to alien sensors, hidden by technology they had never seen. She had been following the enemy fleet since they entered the system, gathering information and transmitting it to human command. "Control, this is Soul's Pride," she whispered into her communicator. "Enemy fleet maintaining standard attack formation. No sign they suspect our true capabilities." "Acknowledged, Soul's Pride," came the reply from Luna Base. "Continue monitoring. Do not engage until the signal." So-Young studied the alien ships through her advanced sensors. They were powerful, she had to admit. Any one of their capital ships could probably destroy 3 or 4 human vessels in a straight fight. But this would not be a straight fight. On the human flagship New Busan, Commander Jinwoo Nam watched the approaching enemy through calm eyes. He was a small man with steady hands and a mind like a steel trap. He had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "the aliens are broadcasting a surrender demand." "Put it through," Jinwoo ordered. War Commander Vexcaran's voice filled the bridge, translated by human computers. "Primitive humans, you are vastly outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make your homeworld burn for 1,000 years. Jinwoo activated the response channel. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady. War Commander Vexcaran of the Crimson Hegemony, Admiral Zek Thorin of the Stellar Dominion, Prime Vessel of the Azure Collective, you were warned to avoid the land of the Earth. Your arrogance has sealed your fate." There was a moment of silence. Then Vexcaran's laughter boomed across the channel. "Sealed our fate? Little human, you have 200 ships. We have 1,200. Simple mathematics will seal your fate." "We shall see," Jinwoo replied, and cut the channel. Deep in the New Busan's engineering section, Wujin Yang monitored displays that would have amazed the aliens if they could see them. Energy flows that shouldn't exist pulsed through the ship's systems. Weapons that looked primitive from outside concealed technology centuries advanced. "Engineering to bridge," Wujin reported. "All systems green. The Sol Defense Grid is fully operational." The Sol Defense Grid was humanity's greatest secret. For decades, human engineers had been building defensive installations throughout the solar system. Asteroids were hollowed out and filled with weapons. Abandoned space junk concealed sensor arrays. Even tiny pieces of debris had been turned into remote-controlled weapons. As the alien fleet advanced past Neptune's orbit, the first surprise revealed itself. Objects that scanners had identified as small asteroids suddenly lit up with fusion fire. Massive engines pushed them into new positions while weapon ports opened along their hulls. "What are those?" demanded Admiral Zek Thorin as his sensors detected the movement. "Unknown, sir," his tactical officer replied. "They appear to be disguised weapons platforms. How many?" The officer's face went pale. "Thousands, sir." War Commander Vexcaran watched in growing alarm as the space around his fleet came alive with hidden defenses. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, every abandoned satellite began moving with purpose. "This is impossible," he growled. How could they hide so many installations? The Azure Collective probed harder with their mental powers, trying to understand what they were seeing. The human minds they touched showed no surprise, only grim satisfaction. These people had been planning this for years. Captain So Young John smiled as she watched the alien confusion from her hiding place. Control the fissure in the net. They're realizing they walked into a trap. Acknowledged, Soul's pride. Phase 2 is beginning. As the alien fleet struggled to understand what they were facing, the human ships began to move. But they didn't charge forward in a desperate attack. Instead, they spread out in a careful pattern, taking positions that made no sense to alien tactical computers. "What are they doing?" Vexcaran demanded. "This formation leaves them completely exposed." "Perhaps they are trying to surrender," suggested one of his officers. But Admiral Zek Thorin was beginning to understand. "No, look at the pattern. They're not exposing themselves. They're channeling us. He was right." The human formation created a corridor that led directly toward Earth. Any alien ship following the obvious attack route would be forced into a narrow passage between the human vessels. "It's a funnel," Zek-Thorin realized. "They want us to attack along this route. Then we won't give them what they want," Vexcaran declared. "All ships break formation. Attack from multiple directions." But when the alien ships tried to spread out, they discovered another problem. The disguised weapons platforms weren't randomly scattered. They formed overlapping fields of fire that made it impossible to approach Earth except through the corridor the humans had created. Wu Jin Yang watched the alien fleet struggle with their tactical problem. "Engineering to bridge. They're figuring it out." "Good," replied Commander Jin Wu Nam. "Fear makes enemies stupid, but understanding makes them desperate. And desperate enemies make mistakes." The alien fleet had no choice. To reach Earth, they would have to follow the route the humans had prepared for them. War Commander Vexcaran ordered his ships forward, confident that their superior numbers would overcome any trap. "All ships, advance in attack formation," he commanded. "Whatever these humans have planned, we have the firepower to break through." As the alien fleet entered the corridor between the human ships, Captain So Young John transmitted her final report. "Control, all enemy vessels are committed. Beginning final approach to the kill zone. Acknowledged, Soul's pride. All stations, prepare for Phase 3. Commander Jin Wu Nam stood on his bridge and watched the enemy fleet advance into the trap humanity had spent decades preparing. Soon the aliens would discover why the Galactic Council had warned them to avoid the land of the Earth. The real battle was about to begin, and the aliens still had no idea what they were really facing. "All ships," Jin Wu said quietly into his communicator. "Prepare to show our guests the true meaning of human hospitality." The first alien ship to die never knew what hit it. War Commander Vexcaran watched in shock as his lead destroyer simply vanished in a ball of fire. One moment it was advancing toward the human fleet, the next it was spreading debris across space. "What happened?" Vexcaran roared. "Unknown weapon signature," his tactical officer reported. "Energy readings unlike anything in our database." Before anyone could respond, 3 more ships exploded. The human vessels hadn't even appeared to fire. No visible beams, no missile trails, nothing to show where the attacks came from. Admiral Zekathorin studied his sensors frantically. "Impossible. The energy discharge should be visible. Where are the weapons?" His answer came as a beam of pure blue light cut his flagship in half. The beam appeared from nowhere, struck with impossible precision, and vanished just as quickly. The mighty Stellar Dominion vessel broke apart like a toy. Commander Gi Hun Park smiled grimly from his position, aboard the orbital defense platform hidden inside what aliens thought was a communications satellite. "Target destroyed. Switching to next priority." Around Earth, dozens of similar platforms revealed themselves, structures that had masqueraded as industrial complexes, research stations, and communication arrays suddenly deployed massive weapons. These weren't human designs. They were based on technology found deep in Earth's oceans decades ago. The ruins had been discovered by accident during deep-sea mining operations. Ancient structures buried beneath miles of sediment, left by a civilization that had visited Earth millions of years ago. Human scientists had spent 30 years reverse engineering the technology, learning secrets that advanced their capabilities by centuries. Pilot Yoonji Lee dove her fighter toward the alien formation, her squadron following close behind. The Thunder Dragons flew ships that looked like simple human designs from the outside. Inside, they carried hybrid technology that defied known physics. "Dragon leader to all units," she called over the radio. "Time to show these aliens what real flying looks like." Her fighter accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible for its size. Alien interceptors tried to follow, but found themselves outmaneuvered by craft that could change direction without regard for momentum. Yunji's weapons cut through enemy shields as if they weren't there. One alien pilot managed to get a targeting lock on her ship. He fired his most powerful weapon directly at her fighter. The beam struck and passed right through her ship without causing any damage. "Phase shifting complete," Yunji reported calmly. "These toys can't touch us." War Commander Vexcaron watched his fleet being torn apart by weapons he couldn't understand. "How are they doing this?" "Our intelligence said they were primitive." The Azure Collective tried desperately to probe human minds for answers. But when their psychic powers touched human consciousness, they recoiled in terror. Human minds were chaos and order combined, utterly alien to their mental structure. Worse, some humans seemed to be actively resisting their probes, turning their own psychic energy back against them. The minds are wrong," the Collective's prime vessel reported. "They think in patterns we cannot follow. Their consciousness resists our touch." Director Seokjin Ryu coordinated the deep strike missions from Luna Base. His job was to target the alien command ships and communication centers. Human vessels that looked like simple patrol craft suddenly revealed themselves as stealth destroyers, appearing inside alien formations and striking at their most vulnerable points. "Strike Team 7, you have a clear shot at the Hegemony flagship," Seokjin reported. "Acknowledged control. Beginning attack run." 3 human ships that had been invisible to alien sensors materialized directly behind Vexcaron's flagship. Their weapons were small compared to the massive alien vessel, but they struck with surgical precision at the ship's command center and engine core. The Bloodfang lurched as its engines failed. Emergency lights flickered across the bridge as systems shut down one by one. "Damage report," Vexcaron demanded. "Engine core offline. Command systems failing. Life support at 50%, his engineer reported, but the humans weren't finished. As the alien fleet struggled with weapons they couldn't understand and tactics they couldn't counter, the truth about humanity began to emerge. Every human exploration mission had been a reconnaissance operation. Every trade agreement had included intelligence gathering. Every diplomatic contact had provided data about alien military capabilities. For 3 years, humanity had been studying their potential enemies while appearing weak and primitive. Admiral Zek Thorin, now commanding from an escape pod after his flagship's destruction, managed to establish contact with the remaining alien ships. "This is impossible. How could they have advanced this far without anyone knowing?" The answer came from an unexpected source. As the battle raged, human ships began broadcasting on all frequencies. The voice that spoke was calm and educational, like a teacher explaining a simple concept. "Attention, alien forces. You are experiencing advanced technology based on archaeological discoveries made on Earth 37 years ago. The ruins found in our deepest ocean trenches contained scientific principles that we have spent decades learning to apply." Commander Jin Woo. Nam continued his explanation while his ship systematically destroyed the alien fleet. "Your intelligence agencies assumed that any advanced civilization would develop technology in the same pattern you followed. You never considered that we might have found a shortcut." War Commander Vexcaron, trapped on his dying flagship, listened in growing horror. "You're saying you found alien ruins on your homeworld?" "We found the remains of a civilization that visited Earth 4 million years ago," Jin Woo confirmed. "They left behind technology that we have been reverse engineering ever since. While you believed us to be primitive, we were actually decades ahead of your own development." The Azure Collective made one final desperate attempt to break human minds through psychic assault. They focused all their remaining power on the human fleet, trying to drive the crews insane with pure mental force. The attack failed completely. Not only were human minds resistant to psychic influence, but some humans began broadcasting their own thoughts back at the collective. The chaotic, adaptive nature of human consciousness proved toxic to the hive mind. One by one, the collective's ships went silent as their crews collapsed in mental shock. "Impossible," whispered the prime vessel before its mind shattered. Director Seokjin Ryu watched the tactical display as the last organized alien formations broke apart. "All stations begin recovery operations." Prepare to process survivors, but there were very few survivors. The alien fleet that had numbered 1,200 ships was reduced to scattered wreckage and a handful of damaged vessels trying to flee. Pilot Yunji Lee pursued the escaping ships, not to destroy them, but to ensure they carried the right message home. Dragon leader to fleeing vessels. You will return to your people with news of what happened here. Tell them why you were warned to avoid the land of the Earth. War Commander Vex Karan, rescued from his destroyed flagship, found himself aboard a human prisoner transport. The ship was clean, efficient, and utterly alien in its design. Through the viewports, he could see the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. How? He asked his human guard. The guard, a young woman with kind eyes, looked at him with something that might have been pity. You made the same mistake everyone makes. You assumed that because we were new to space travel, we were primitive. You never considered that we might have had help. As the surviving alien ships limped away from the Sol system, they carried with them the knowledge that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of humanity. The species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers was actually the most advanced military force anyone had ever encountered. The revelation would spread quickly through alien space. Humanity hadn't just won a battle. They had fundamentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. And it had all started with ancient ruins hidden in Earth's deepest waters. 3 days after the battle, silence filled the space where the great alien fleet had been. Debris drifted slowly between the planets, all that remained of 1,200 warships. Among the wreckage, human recovery teams worked carefully, searching for survivors and salvaging what could be learned. Admiral Minho Kim commanded the human pursuit fleets from his flagship Incheon. His job was not to hunt down every escaping alien ship, but to choose which ones would be allowed to flee. Each survivor would carry word of humanity's true power back to their homeworlds. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we have 17 alien vessels attempting to escape through the Jupiter corridor. Let the damaged ones go, Minho ordered. Disable the ones that still have full weapon systems. We want them to go home afraid, not angry. This was psychological warfare at its finest. The aliens who returned home would tell stories of impossible human technology and overwhelming defeat. Fear would spread faster than any fleet could travel. War Commander Vex Karan sat in a clean white cell aboard a human prison ship. His wounds had been treated with care that surprised him. The humans could have let him die, but instead they had saved his life. Through the small window, he could see human ships moving with perfect coordination, cleaning up the battlefield. A young human woman entered his cell. She wore a simple uniform and carried a data pad. Her name tag read, Dr. Hyejin Cho. Commander Vex Karan, she said politely. I am Ambassador Cho. I'm here to discuss your repatriation. Repatriation? Vex Karan was confused. You're sending me home? Of course, Hyejin replied. You will return to the Crimson Hegemony with a message from humanity. Your government needs to understand what happened here. Vex Karan studied her face. You could execute me as a war criminal. I led an unprovoked attack on your homeworld. Yes, you did, Hyejin agreed, but executing you would serve no purpose. Sending you home alive will serve many purposes. The war commander was beginning to understand. Dead, he would be a martyr. Alive, he would be a witness to the complete destruction of the most powerful fleet in galactic history. On Earth, the Galactic Council convened in emergency session. This time, the meeting was held in New Geneva, in a conference room deep beneath the Swiss mountains. The alien delegates looked nervous and frightened as they took their seats. Elder Thexmore spoke first, his ancient voice heavy with sorrow. The warnings were ignored. 3 civilizations chose arrogance over wisdom. Now they face the consequences. Ambassador Hyejin Cho represented humanity at this meeting. She looked calm and professional as she addressed the assembled aliens. Honored delegates, humanity did not seek this conflict. We expanded peacefully, traded fairly, and honored all agreements. When threatened with extinction, we defended ourselves. Kylthera, the crystalline being who had dismissed human capabilities, now flickered with dull colors. Her voice was barely audible. How did we not know? How did our intelligence fail so completely? Because you saw what you expected to see, Hyejin replied. You assumed that a species new to space travel must be primitive. You never considered that we might have had advantages you didn't know about. The ruins, whispered an alien delegate. The technology you found on your homeworld. Hyejin nodded. 4 million years ago, an advanced civilization visited Earth. They left behind ruins that we discovered 37 years ago. We've been reverse engineering their technology ever since. Why didn't you tell us? Demanded another alien. Would you have believed us? Heejin asked. Or would you have assumed we were lying to make ourselves seem more important? The silence that followed was answer enough. Elder Thexmore leaned forward. What happens now? 3 major powers lie in ruins. Their fleets are destroyed, their military leadership dead or captured. The balance of power in the galaxy has changed forever. Humanity seeks peace, Heejin said simply. We don't want to rule over others. We just want to be left alone to develop in our own way. And if others threaten you again? Heejin's smile was polite but cold. Then they will discover why we were warned to avoid the land of the Earth. Back in the Sol system, Commander Donghyun Lee supervised the massive cleanup operation. Human ships collected alien wreckage while construction crews began building a memorial. The debris of 1,000 alien ships would be assembled into a monument, a reminder to future visitors of what happened when Arrogance met preparation. Sir, reported one of his engineers, the hegemony survivors are requesting permission to recover their dead. Granted, Donghyun replied. Provide them with escort ships and full honors for their deceased. We're not monsters. This too was part of the plan. Every gesture of respect and humanity would be remembered. The aliens would return home with stories not just of devastating defeat, but of human honor and victory. As the weeks passed, the news spread throughout the galaxy. The Crimson Hegemony dissolved into civil war, as different factions blamed each other for the disaster. The Stellar Dominion retreated to their core worlds. Their belief in technological supremacy shattered. The Azure Collective went silent, their hive mind traumatized by contact with human consciousness. Other species watched and learned. Trade requests flooded human space as governments sought to ally themselves with the new galactic superpower. But humanity was careful about who they trusted. War Commander Vex Karen finally returned home aboard a human diplomatic vessel. The Soul's honor delivered him to the edge of hegemony space with full military honors. As he prepared to transfer to a hegemony ship, he had one final conversation with his human escort. Why? He asked Captain So Young John. Why show mercy to an enemy who showed you none? So Young considered the question carefully. Because mercy is strength. Because honor matters, and because we want the galaxy to know what kind of species we really are. Vex Karen looked out at the human ship that had treated him with more respect than his own people often showed. The galaxy will remember this. That's the idea, So Young replied. The memorial in the Sol system was completed 6 months after the battle. It stood in space between Earth and Mars, a twisted sculpture made from the wreckage of alien warships. Carved into its surface in 100 languages was a simple message. They were warned to avoid the land of the Earth. Arrogance brought their ruin. Here rest those who forgot that wisdom and strength often wear humble faces. Years passed. The galactic order had changed forever. Humanity didn't seek to conquer or rule, but no one doubted their ability to defend themselves. The warning that had once seemed like paranoid caution was now recognized as prophecy. Trade flourished. Science advanced. Peace spread across star systems that had known only war, and at the center of it all was Earth, the 3rd planet from a yellow star, home to a species that had turned ancient ruins into modern miracles. Elder Thexmore, now very old even by his species standards, made one final visit to the Sol system before his death. He stood before the memorial and read its inscription with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. The young ones teach the old, he murmured to himself. Perhaps that is as it should be. Ambassador Haye Jin Cho, now humanity's chief diplomatic representative, joined him at the memorial. Any regrets, Elder? Thexmore was quiet for a long moment. Only that so many had to die before the lesson was learned. Your species shows that strength and wisdom can coexist. That is a rare gift in this galaxy. We learned from teachers who came before us, Haye-Jin replied, gesturing toward the stars, even if we never met them. As they stood together before the monument to fallen Arrogance, ships from a dozen different species passed through human space on peaceful business. The warning had become law, but it was no longer needed. The galaxy had learned to respect the land of the Earth, and in the deep places of Earth's oceans, ancient ruins still held secrets waiting to be discovered. Humanity's journey had only just begun.